Hello guys, and welcome to the Expensive Coins History channel. There are moments in life when something small, something easily overlooked, turns out to hold a story far greater than anyone ever imagined. A quiet object, passed from hand to hand, resting in drawers, forgotten in old boxes, sitting unnoticed among everyday change. And then one day, someone looks a little closer, and everything changes. Today, I want you to picture this that you're going through an old collection. Maybe it belonged to your father, your grandfather, or even something you saved years ago and never thought twice about. You open a small box, and inside are coins, ordinary at first glance. Worn edges, familiar designs, nothing that screams importance. But then your eyes settle on one piece, a Spanish coin, dated 1984.100 pesetas. At first, it doesn't seem extraordinary. Spain issued millions of coins during that era. The country was moving through a period of modernization, shifting from its past into a new identity within Europe. Coins like this were part of everyday life. People used them for coffee, bus rides, groceries, simple transactions that came and went without a second thought. But here's where the story begins to deepen. Because not every coin is just a coin, some carry subtle differences. Tiny details, small variations that only the most observant collectors recognize. And in those differences lies the kind of value that can change everything. The 1984 100 pesetas coin is one of those pieces that sits right on the edge between ordinary and extraordinary. To the average person, it's just another piece of currency from the past. But to those who understand the hidden language of coins, it can be something else entirely. Let's slow down and really look at it. Imagine holding it in your hand. The weight feels solid, reassuring. The design reflects Spain's identity during that time, a nation proud of its culture, its history, and its transformation. The portrait, the inscriptions, the fine details engraved into the surface, all of it tells a story. But here's the truth most people never realize. Coins are not valuable just because they are old. They are valuable because of rarity, condition, and the unexpected quirks that make them different from the rest. And this is where things start to get interesting. In 1984, Spain produced these coins in large numbers. But within that production, certain batches, whether due to minting errors, limited runs, or unique characteristics, became incredibly rare over time. These are the coins that slip through unnoticed for years, even decades. Collectors don't just look for age. They look for perfection. They look for anomalies. They look for coins that tell a slightly different story than the millions of others. And sometimes, that difference is almost invisible. A slight variation in the engraving, a subtle shift in the alignment, a tiny detail in the minting that most people would never even think to check. But for the trained eye, these are not small details. They are everything. Now imagine this scenario. Someone inherits a handful of old coins. They toss them into a jar, maybe even spend a few without thinking. Years pass. Life moves on. And then one day, curiosity strikes. They take a closer look. They research, they compare, and suddenly, they realize that one of those coins is not like the others. That realization is powerful. It's the moment where something ordinary becomes extraordinary. The 1984 Spain 100 pesetas coin has built a reputation among collectors for exactly this reason. It represents a hidden opportunity, a quiet treasure that doesn't announce itself loudly, but rewards those who pay attention. And let's be honest for a moment. How many people actually check their coins carefully? How many people take the time to examine the fine details, to understand the history behind what they're holding? Very few. And that's why stories like this exist. Because value doesn't always reveal itself to the careless observer, it reveals itself to the patient, the curious, the ones willing to look just a little deeper. Now think about the emotional side of this. For many people in the age group of 35 to 65 and beyond, coins like this are not just objects. They are memories. They remind you of a time when currency felt different, when holding money had a physical presence, a weight, a texture that digital numbers can never replace. You remember traveling, exchanging currencies, seeing coins from different countries, and wondering about their stories. This Spanish coin carries that nostalgia. It represents a piece of Europe during a time of change, a time when Spain was redefining itself, integrating more closely with the rest of the continent, and stepping into a new era. And yet, hidden within that historical context, is something far more personal than a chance discovery, than a moment of surprise. The realization that something you already own might be worth far more than you ever imagined. Let's talk about condition for a moment, because this is where things can shift dramatically. A coin in average condition might only hold modest value. Scratches, wear, fading details, all of these reduce its appeal to collectors. But a coin that has been preserved, one that still holds its original sharpness, its clarity, its brilliance, that's where the magic happens. Collectors are not just buying a coin. They are buying a moment frozen in time. They want to see the coin as it was when it first left the mint. They want perfection or something very close to it. And when that level of preservation meets rarity, the results can be astonishing. Now imagine someone who unknowingly kept such a coin safe for decades. Maybe it sat in a drawer, untouched. Maybe it was part of a collection that was never fully explored. And then one day, it's discovered. That moment is not just about money, that it's about realization, that it's about understanding that something small, something easily dismissed, can hold incredible significance. And that's the deeper message here. Value is not always obvious. It hides in plain sight. It waits for the right person to recognize it. The 1984 Spain 100 pesetas coin is a perfect example of this idea. It challenges the assumption that only ancient or gold coins are worth attention. And now, as we move forward from that realization, from the idea that a single overlooked coin in Spain could carry a life-changing value, we step into another story, one that is even quieter, even more understated at first glance, yet equally powerful when fully understood. Because across Europe, in a different year, under different circumstances, another coin was born. A Belgian 5 francs coin, dated 1975. At first, there is nothing dramatic about that statement. It sounds like everyday currency from a stable European nation. Something familiar, something practical, something that once passed through countless hands in shops, markets, train stations, and cafes across Belgium. But like the Spanish coin we just explored, this one also hides a deeper truth. And that truth is not visible at first glance. You have to understand the world it came from. The mid-1970s in Europe was a time of transition. Economies were adjusting, societies were shifting, and countries like Belgium were balancing tradition with modernization. Coins during this period were not just tools of trade. They were small symbols of national identity, circulating through a population that still relied heavily on physical money in daily life. The 1975 Belgium 5 francs coin belongs to that era. A simple denomination, small enough to be overlooked, common enough to be dismissed. And yet, history often hides its most remarkable stories inside the most ordinary objects. Picture it in your hand. Not polished like modern commemoratives, not shiny like collector-proof releases. Instead, it carries the texture of circulation. It feels like a survivor of daily life. It has been touched, used, carried, spent, and exchanged countless times. Every scratch tells a silent story. Every worn edge reflects years of movement through an economy that once depended entirely on coins like this. And yet, despite its simplicity, this coin has something that makes collectors pause. Because not all coins from 1975 are equal. In the world of numismatics, what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary is rarely obvious to the untrained eye. It is not just the year. It is not just the country. It is not just the denomination. It is the combination of rarity, production variation, survival rate, and condition that creates true value. And in the case of the 1975 Belgium 5 francs coin, certain examples have become exceptionally difficult to find in high preservation states. Think about what that means. Millions may have been produced, but how many survived untouched by heavy circulation? How many avoided damage, cleaning, wear, or loss over the decades? Very few. And when time reduces supply, something very predictable happens in the collector world. Demand begins to rise. Slowly at first, quietly, almost invisibly, until suddenly, a coin that once had no special attention becomes a highly sought-after piece. But there is another layer here that makes this coin even more fascinating. Belgian coinage of this period reflects a specific design philosophy, one that emphasized national symbolism, craftsmanship, and subtle detail rather than dramatic imagery. That means the value is not always in bold visuals, but in precision. Collectors look closely at minting quality. They examine the sharpness of inscriptions. They study alignment, strike quality, and surface integrity. And when a coin from this era appears in near-perfect condition, it becomes something rare enough to attract serious attention. Not in a museum, not in a curated auction display, but in an old collection, perhaps inherited, perhaps forgotten, perhaps sitting untouched in a simple box. That moment of discovery is where the real story begins. Because in numismatics, discovery is everything. It is the bridge between history and value. And the 1975 Belgium 5 francs coin has been part of many such discoveries, each one reminding collectors that sometimes the most unassuming objects can carry unexpected importance. Let's go deeper into why condition plays such a critical role here. When a coin is first minted, it carries sharp details, clean surfaces, and full definition. But circulation changes everything. Over time, friction softens edges. Contact with other coins leaves marks. Exposure to environments causes dulling. Human handling adds oils, scratches, and wear. Most coins never escape this process. They become part of everyday life until they are no longer distinguishable as anything special. But a small percentage avoid heavy circulation. Some are stored early. Some are preserved unknowingly. Some are simply forgotten before they are heavily used. These surviving examples become the foundation of high-value collector markets. And this is where the 1975 Belgium 5 francs coin enters elite territory. Because in exceptional condition, especially when paired with specific characteristics that collectors search for, it transitions from simple currency into a historical artifact. Something worth preserving. Something worth studying. Something worth paying attention to. And that attention is what drives value upward. But beyond the technical side, there is something emotional. They connect generations. They survive long after the people who once used them have moved on. Think about how many hands this coin may have passed through in 1975. A shopkeeper handing change to a customer. And yet, the coin remains. It carries all of that invisible history within its metal. That is why collectors do not see coins as just objects. They see them as time capsules. And the 1975 Belgium 5 francs coin is exactly that. A small, silent witness to a world that no longer exists in the same form. Now, let's bring this into perspective. Many people underestimate coins like this because they assume only ancient or gold coins hold real value. But the modern numismatic world has proven time and again that rarity is not limited to age. Rarity is about survival. It is about scarcity. It is about demand meeting limited supply. And sometimes, even relatively modern coins can achieve astonishing valuations when those factors align perfectly. This is where awareness becomes powerful. Because most people never check. Most people never evaluate what they already have. They never compare, research, or question. And as a result, valuable coins often remain hidden in plain sight for decades. That is the quiet truth of this field. Opportunity does not always announce itself. It waits. And now, as we reach the final part of this journey, it becomes clear why stories like this matter so much. They are not just about coins. They are about perspective. They are about learning to recognize value where others see none. They are about understanding that history is not only found in museums, but also in everyday objects that once circulated through ordinary life. The Belgian 5 francs coin from 1975 is a perfect example of that idea. Simple in appearance, modest in denomination, unremarkable to most, but extraordinary when understood properly. And in the right condition, with the right rarity factors, it has reached levels that few would ever expect from something so small and unassuming. Up to $106,000. A figure that transforms perception instantly. Because suddenly, what looked like a basic coin becomes something else entirely. A reminder, a discovery, a hidden opportunity that may have been sitting unnoticed for years. And that is the real message behind both of these coins we have explored today. Not that every old coin is valuable, but that every old coin deserves attention. Because you never truly know what story it carries until you look closely enough to understand it. So if you take anything from this, let it be this simple idea. Do not overlook what seems ordinary. Do not dismiss what seems familiar. Because sometimes, the smallest objects hold the largest surprises. And somewhere, in a drawer, a box, or an old collection, something like this may already be waiting. Quiet. patient, unnoticed, until the day someone finally decides to look a little closer.